No, we screwed up.
Oh, looks like all our devices at our place are watching.
So it's your family.
That's my family, is it?
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Council, this is our last meeting of the year. It's the meeting just before Christmas. And keeping in order with our Christmas traditions, we have Councillor Michael Zwaagstra having the opening again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among those with whom he is pleased. Angels proclaimed this message to a group of shepherds shortly after the birth of Jesus. At long last, the promised Messiah had been born. No doubt the shepherds were excited to hear this news. After all, the Jews had been waiting for centuries for the arrival of their Messiah. As the prophet Isaiah had foretold 800 years earlier, the Messiah would be known as the Prince of Peace. From the shepherds' perspective, the birth of the Messiah came just in time. The Jewish people were struggling under a brutal Roman occupation. They were certain that the Messiah would lead a successful rebellion against their oppressors and liberate them from Roman rule. After all, the Messiah was the Prince of Peace, who would establish a new government and inaugurate a new era of peace. However, that isn't what happened. Jesus never led a rebellion, and he certainly did not establish an earthly kingdom. In fact, after only 3 years of ministry, he was crucified by Pontius Pilate, and his followers were scattered. Even after his resurrection and the establishment of the church, Roman occupation continued. Those who followed Jesus faced centuries of persecution. Considering all this, how does it possibly make sense to say that Jesus brought peace on earth? The answer is found in the fact that the Hebrew and Greek words for peace contain a much richer meaning than our English word does. Peace in this context does not simply convey an absence of conflict. Rather, it speaks about a positive blessing, particularly that of a right relationship with God. This was the peace promised to the shepherds. Shortly before his crucifixion, Jesus said to his disciples, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid." Jesus was not promising a life of luxury and ease for his disciples. Far from it. Instead, he reminded his disciples that they would have a different type of peace, one that passes all understanding. This peace enabled Christians to survive some of the most extreme forms of persecution. No matter how hard government officials tried to stamp out Christianity, the church continued to grow. Missionaries continued to spread the good news, and Christians continued to support the poor and needy. As the Apostle Paul wrote while in prison, his faith made it possible for him to experience contentment regardless of his circumstances. Fortunately, this promise of peace remains just as real for us today as it was for the shepherds more than 2,000 years ago. This is good news, particularly since we are facing a Christmas that is going to look a lot different from what we are used to. Not being able to see family and friends at this time of year is a real hardship and one that is not easily endured. We should not minimize the very real challenges that people face this year. However, my hope is that when people look at our community, they will see us living out the peace of Christmas. COVID-19 can temporarily limit our in-person gatherings, but it cannot cancel the birth of the Messiah or prevent us from experiencing the peace that passes all understanding. Christmas may look different this year, but it definitely has not been canceled. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zwaagstra. Council, we have the agenda in front of us. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Penner, followed by Councillor Hebert. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. We have the minutes of December 1st, 2020, the regular council meeting. It starts on page 1. We've had all had a chance to look over them. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Hebert. Okay. Any comments?
No comments.
Okay. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none. Council, we're missing a councillor today, Councillor Damien Penner. He's at a program for his daughter. Looking for a motion to excuse. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, it's just a little after 7:35, so we'll go directly into the public hearings. We've got the public hearing 6A, the local improvement bylaw 2161. This is referring to the Acres Drive extension. It starts on page 4 of our agenda. Mr. Workentine, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this and members of council, this is the proposal for the City of Steinbach Local Improvement Plan number 2021-02 and bylaw 2161 for the proposal of the construction of the Acres Drive Street and servicing as a local improvement. Notices, as are required under the Municipal Act, have been issued. There are 2 pieces of additional correspondence that have been submitted subsequent to the preparation of the agenda package, and that has been provided to council in your mail bins. The proposed project seeks to develop approximately 500 lineal meters of roadway, which is to be the extension of Acres Drive in Steinbach from its eastern point at the intersection of Industrial Road to its western point at the intersection of Keating Road. The project is estimated to create an overall debt and borrowing of $3.1 million, as is provided in the attached local improvement plan that is provided in your information package. The recommendation from administration is that City Council proceed with the project, subject to the satisfactory outcome of the public hearing, and that council give first reading to bylaw subsequent to the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Workentine. Is there anyone here with questions, objections, or comments for this file? Okay, take the podium. Just as a formality, state your name and address, because it goes on the record, and then you can proceed.
Okay. I'm Jeanette DeLong, and my address is 38 Brentwood Drive. Mr. Mayor, members of council, over 60 years ago, a small group of parents who had children who lived with an intellectual disability came together to discuss how to provide opportunities for their children. There were no services for them at that time. These parents believed that their children had more potential than society gave them credit for. They believed that they had the capacity to learn new skills and that their children were deserving of the same opportunities that other children had. At the time, the province did not allow children with intellectual disabilities to attend public school. So the parents opened a school for their children and called it Kindale School, as a way to fulfill the dreams they had for their children's future. It took 10 years for the province to open attendance at public schools so that these children could attend with everyone else. The purpose of our nonprofit and charitable organization from the onset has been to provide supports and services for people who live with an intellectual disability. When the school was no longer needed, the family group started what we now know as Kindle Industries. Since then, we have grown to provide a vast array of services responding to the changing needs of those we serve. In these 60 years or so, we have started residential services, homes with 24-hour care, supported independent living services, providing supports to people who require just a few hours of support each week for groceries, banking, helping with meal preparation, for example. Out of Kindale, we started Eastman Employment Services, providing job search and on-the-job training services, having now helped hundreds of people get paying jobs. Then we also started our retirement program for people entering retirement age and needing something that was not work-related. Eastman Recycling Services was started to provide meaningful work opportunities for people we serve and provide an avenue for increased presence in the community. Our day services started with MPRC, originally called Steinbach Developmental Center, MPRC, Martha P. Rempel Center, named after one of our founding parents. Edith's Place came out of the growth in MPRC. Both Edith's Place and MPRC provide primarily non-vocational services, assisting people with community volunteerism, recreation, and providing supports with physio and occupational therapy. Our home share services have families from the community inviting people who have an intellectual disability to live with them and their family. We have 2 respite apartments available for families who hire their own respite workers, but just need a place outside their home for their family member to go, which gives them a break from caregiving. We provide services for almost 500 people who live with an intellectual disability in southeast Manitoba. Most of these services happen within the city of Steinbach. We have about 450 staff who help us achieve our vision to inspire equality, inclusion, and the value of all people. All of the services I mentioned don't tell the true story of the impact of our work. The impact of our work surpasses anything our founding families could have dreamed. Our staff do more than just caregiving. We facilitate opportunities for people. We unleash the potential that people have to be contributors to our society and not just consumers of services. Our work contributes to a rich and diverse community where everyone belongs. We have supported people to find their voice, a young man to share his story of living with a disability, inspiring and encouraging others throughout Manitoba to go for their dreams. A young woman who came with her family from Paraguay for an opportunity for a better life and is now writing her own blog and changing community perceptions about disability, letting people know that people with disabilities are smart. A young woman with finely honed filing skills, an employee that many of us would be pleased to have in our offices. A man who has an incredible work ethic, who loves to see the fruits of his labor at the end of a hard day's work. Each person we serve has a story to tell. Our staff help people to tell their stories, find their dreams, and find people and places in the community where they can have a sense of belonging. The improvement plan would have Envision pay up to $250,000 for this improvement. We have no way to generate additional revenue to offset such an expense. Unlike the other listed taxpayer in the plan, the city's own Steinbach Community Development Corporation. The majority of our funding comes from the provincial government. The Steinbach Community Development Corporation will no doubt see a full recuperation of any expenses when the properties are sold. This local improvement plan has no benefit to our organization. If you proceed with this plan, the only way that we have to pay for it is through cutting services. Cutting services for us means cutting staff hours. staff who are already some of the lowest paid caregivers in the province, not because we decide so, but due to the funding model set by the Department of Families. It means cutting services that families rely on in order to fulfill the same dreams for their children as our founders dreamed for their children. As is common with charitable organizations, the funding received for services is never enough to fully meet all the needs of all of the people. We are always in a state of determining priorities for where the money is most needed. If the city proceeds, it will be incredibly unfair to envision to people we serve, their families, and our staff. We submitted a letter with some 75 or so signatures supporting our opposition to this plan. This is a small sampling of the signatures we could have gotten had there not been a pandemic and had there been sufficient time to get to everyone who cares about this to sign. ERS has been at the location on Industrial Road for over 15 years. Our organization has always planned well when it comes to our infrastructure. Over the years, we've been blessed with wise and forward-thinking volunteer board members. The ERS site is established to run off of Industrial Road. We have 2 driveways accessing Industrial Road. The building and large overhead doors face Industrial Road, and we see no future priority that will change how it is set up. There may be a perception by some of you that ERS is generating sufficient surplus revenues to cover an expense of this nature. The reality is that the recycling industry is facing considerable challenges. The last 5 years have been fiscally challenging, with the last 2.5 years since the fire at our building being most significant. Recycling has been impacted by a number of factors. The evolving ton. Remember the good old days when you can open a plastic bottle of water and it wouldn't spurt all over you? Well, the plastic bottle now is very thin. That's great for the environment as it's less plastic. However, with revenues in recycling being tied to weights, this means less money in sales and grants, which are tied to weight of materials. We are impacted by the markets. We have seen sales drop by 45% in the last 3 years. This is due to a dramatic drop in market pricing of recyclable materials. We're also impacted by rising insurance costs. We've seen an increase of 142% in the last 5 years. ERS has never been a for-profit model. It has held its own over the years, albeit in the last few years, that has required significant cost cutting in order to balance the bottom line. Not unlike other envisioned services, ERS's revenue has limits. ERS's primary purpose is to provide supports and services to people who live with an intellectual disability. It is one of our day programs, also receiving provincial funding. In addition to our other services, which I mentioned earlier, we employ support staff at ERS as well. They are driving the trucks and working the sort line alongside people we serve, providing supports necessary to ensure success in their jobs. As a local charity, we're asking you to find another way to fund this plan. We object to the plan as it has no benefit to us, and our dollars need to be spent doing what our bylaws call on us to do, providing supports and services to people who live with an intellectual disability. You should know that receiving and reviewing this plan has been stressful for us. We are stunned that this was ever considered as an option by the city to have a local charity be the only taxpayer impacted by the plan for a road that has no benefit to the charity. To redirect our time and energy to oppose something that has no benefit to us is troubling. We are in the throes of a pandemic, like other frontline workers, serving some of the most vulnerable of our citizens, keeping hundreds of employees working and outfitted with necessary PPE. And in all this, here we are standing before you to plead our case, to let us keep our money for what it was intended. We at Envision oppose how the city proposes to fund this improvement plan. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just have you state any questions for the this time? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, yeah, just for the record, state your name and address and then continue.
My name is Jeff Diltz. I live at 133 Ever Oak Place. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. As I said, my name is Jeff Diltz, and I'm the president of the Volunteer Board of Directors for Envision Community Living. Like most of our board members, I have someone in my life who lives with a disability. My son Carter has autism, and while we are not yet receiving Envision services, we are looking forward to Carter entering into the day services program at Edith's Place once he completes his last year at the SRSS in 2022. For parents, organizations like Envision offer hope and support and let us know that we are not in this alone. For our children and family members who live with a disability, organizations like Envision offer opportunity, opening doors to possibilities, developing skills, and helping them find their place in society so that they can contribute to their community and not just use resources or services. And to our communities, Envision impacts our openness to being inclusive, our diversity, and how our community values all people. It cannot be stressed enough how important organizations like Envision are to our children and to our families. Having said all of that, and hoping that this would have already been understood by all, we are very disappointed that the city has chosen to move forward with this local improvement levy. We are disappointed that the city chose not to reach out to Envision and communicate this plan to us ahead of time, but instead provided only a notice of what we would be expected to pay. Providing this notice now, during a global pandemic, in the middle of a provincial-wide code red, with such an inappropriately short period of time for us to respond, has added an unnecessary amount of stress to our already stressed management team and could have been avoided. It is concerning to us that the city feels that a nonprofit organization should have to pay any amount to fund this project, diverting funds that are intended to provide services and support for our most vulnerable persons to a project that provides no benefit to our organization and the people that we serve. Our affected operation, Eastman Recycling Services, has been set up to operate using the existing access to Industrial Road. We have no plans to make any changes to make use of the proposed extension on Acres Drive. We believe that as the only taxpayer affected by this levy, that our opposition to it should be sufficient to stop the proposal, and we ask Council to take whatever steps necessary to ensure that Envision is not forced to take funds that are provided to support those with disabilities in our community and instead be used to finance this proposed development. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions of council? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to object, have any comments or questions to this file? Okay, I'll ask one more time. Anyone else here with objections, questions, or comments to this file? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Zwaagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion for first reading.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Penner? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Zwaagstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to make a few comments, and I'm going to start by talking about the project itself. And then I will, of course, talk about the objection and comment on some of the concerns that are raised. This is obviously a significant project. It is we're constructing the street and water main on Acres Drive between Industrial Road and Keating Road as a local improvement. Obviously, this is continuing to develop the industrial park within the city. It is a substantial project. The city, of course, has constructed other roads in this area, so we are continuing to invest in that. This is, as far as how this is being funded, a local improvement plan is levied in cases when we're making improvements to roadways and when we're constructing the street and water main. And so the way it's calculated is that the properties which are on the road are apportioned on a frontage basis. Now, in this case, you have the Envision Community Living having a property there, and then you also have the Steinbach Community Development Corporation, which, yes, the members on the board of the Community Development Corporation, the members are appointed by the city, but it certainly is a taxpayer. They do pay taxes every year. And so it does certainly count as a taxpayer in that regard. Just in terms of some of the issues that have been raised, I should point out that in 2007, when Envision, then known as ACL, had purchased the property and built there, that they had signed a development agreement. I'm going to quote exactly what the development agreement states. The developer, that's the organization, acknowledges and hereby agrees that it shall pay its fair portion of the paving to be done in the Steinbach Industrial Park new subdivision by way of a local improvement levy to be assessed on each property in the new subdivision on the basis of a frontage foot assessment, with the levy regarding the corner lots being calculated at 50% of the flankage and frontage total. So what that means is that is the agreement signed between the city and Envision, or ACL at that time, explicitly stating that both parties agree to exactly what we're doing now, which is that when the flankage and the frontage roads are developed, that the organization agrees to pay its fair share, which of course is done on the frontage basis as stated in the agreement that were signed by both parties. I should also add that there is a recognition that because it's a corner lot, it does not receive the same benefit as a property which is not a corner lot, and that's why in the agreement it explicitly states that it's on a 50% basis. And so the number that was quoted, that up to $250,000, in actuality, the amount that we have here is that it would be $102,876, which could potentially be paid over 5 years, about $20,000 per year. So obviously that is still a noticeable amount of money, but it is considerably less than the number that has been referenced. So I understand, and I want to make it clear that we appreciate the work that Envision does. It does incredible work within our city. I know of people, I've met people who have moved to Steinbach because of the work done by Envision. Like, they have children that needed supports, and Envision's reputation is actually well known across the province. They're the best organization across the province in terms of providing support to people who live with disabilities. And so people move here because of that. And this in no way takes away from that. But again, this is a standard road development. This is how we do all of our local improvements. There's never been a time that I'm aware of where the city has ever, in a local improvement plan, carved out a particular property and said, this property doesn't have to pay, but the other ones do. It has never happened, not in the entire time that I've been on council that I'm aware of. And so if we carve out one property, we're creating a significant precedent saying that, well, now it's on a case-by-case basis every time there's a local improvement plan. And again, I'm just quoting from the actual agreement that was signed, which was explicit that this is what was agreed to, and so this is doing exactly what had been agreed to at that time. So I do think we should move ahead with first reading.
Anything further, Councillor Penner?
Sure. I just wanted to clarify that these levies are based on land, not what is built on the land. So I understand maybe it's because it's a nonprofit, it seems maybe unfair, but it isn't about what's on it. Ms. DeLong mentioned that they have to do what their bylaws call them to do. We also have to do what our bylaws call us to do. And based on our bylaws, it makes sense for us to approve this as presented. So I will support, I'll support the motion.
Anything further of council? Councillor Siemens.
I find this one, I struggle. I agree with the statements made by Councillor Zwaagstra and Councillor Penner in regards to the documentation from 2007. This project, though, building the street benefits all of Steinbach and the CDC. When those properties are sold, they will, the sales from those properties go back to pay for the work being done on the road. And I think that it benefits the community as a whole. And Envision states that they don't directly benefit. They will benefit from it at the time when they do sell that property. That is when the benefit. But the other side of this is that they are a charity organization within our community doing a lot of good work, as was stated. I think it is good. They are a local charity. In the past, they've got grant funding from the city. They are a large entity in Steinbach. But I think that I will vote against the motion simply because when we do go and sell those properties, those dollars go back to pay for the cost of building the road.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, just to respond to Councillor Siemens, it's pretty clear, and both in terms of the bylaw and in terms of past practice of the city, is that we don't pick and choose organizations along it. When we are constructing roadway and it's a local improvement plan, we've universally always done it where all properties along pay on the basis of frontage in that case. And so it would create a significant precedent if we're going to now, for the first time, start carving out a property because it's nonprofit. Because I know there have been other times when nonprofits would be along a street and the street gets paved and then they pay. And that's just simply how it works.
Thank you. I would like to thank Mrs. DeLong and Mr. Diltz for presenting. They were heartfelt, and we do feel for where you're coming from. Having said that, I do believe too that the entire property does benefit. It's maybe not the business that's on there at this time, but properties do change hands, and eventually, as you sell, there will be a huge benefit to that property, and there is a benefit to properties whenever we do improvements in our community. Yes, the sales do come back, and they do come back to the CDC, but the CDC's job is to keep developing. So that money won't stay there. That money will develop another road, and that'll open up more land. And that's why we do this. That the money in the CDC doesn't just sit there and grow. It is reinvested in the community so the community can keep growing. And this is part of that. So this money will go back into the community and continue to invest in the community and continue to grow the community as you are doing in your own business. And that is why I do believe that it sets a precedent if we do pick and choose, because it'll every time we do this, we will have the same thing happen, and we'll have to pick and choose. And I think to do this, and we've got an agreement signed with you it's rated at 50%. I think that's fair. It was agreed in 2007, and for that time, I think at this time it's applicable, and I think we can use it. And so for that reason, I will support the motion. I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, council, we're only doing first reading at this time. This will go back to administration, come back to us at a further date. I'd like to go to 6B. This is Local Improvement Bylaw 2160. This is Brandt Street Sewer and Water Upgrade. Starts on page 12 on our package. At this time, I'd like to close the council meeting, open the public hearing. Mr. Workney, could you introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of council, this is a consideration or a public hearing to consider the city's local improvement plan number 2021-01 and local improvement bylaw 2160. And that is for the Brandt Street Underground Renewal Project that has been proposed to be completed in 2021. The purpose, as I mentioned, is to proceed with this project as a local improvement. It will see approximately 1,000 meters of both water line and sewer line on Brandt Street between First Street and Mackenzie Avenue to be either replaced or improved via a sewer liner. The total estimated cost of the project has been set at $2.415 million, of which an amount of $1.25 million will be a debt creation, with the balance of the work to be funded by the city's utility operating fund and utility reserve funds. The proposal is also to levy the general water local improvement district and sewer local improvement districts with an applicable mill rate levy beginning after the project is completed to recover the debt-funded portion of the project. Recommendation from administration is that City Council give this bylaw first and second reading, subject to the outcome of the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Workendine. Is there anyone here wanting to object, have questions or comments to this one? No. Okay, I will ask one more time. Is there anyone here wanting to object, have comments or questions on this file? Okay, seeing none, we will, at this time, I will close the public hearing, open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Zwaagstra,
I'll make the motion for first reading.
and second by Councillor Penner. Go ahead, Councillor Zwaagstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is obviously a significant project. This is to proceed with reconstructing the water main and line the sewer main on Brandt Street. That would be between First Street and Lumber Avenue. And this is obviously part of our ongoing emphasis as a city and as a council on renewing our infrastructure. And so this is a substantial underground renewal project. The total amount of money involved, the estimated project cost, is just over $2.4 million. And approximately half of that would come from borrowing, again, over a 5-year period, as is our normal practice. And then the remainder of the funding comes from our city's utility reserve and from utility operating funds. And so I think that's an appropriate way to fund this. It's important that we continue to invest in our underground infrastructure, particularly in our older established parts of the city, because we don't focus on just the newer areas and the new development. We also need to make sure that we take care of our established roads, and Brandt Street is a pretty major road within the city.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Penner?
Yeah, I'd just like to make the comment, when it comes to underground infrastructure, timing is key. If you wait too long, the cost goes up significantly. And with this project and with the way technology is advancing, the time is right for us to do that now. And in fact, this is significant. Although 2.4 sounds like a lot, it's significantly less than it probably, well, then traditionally would have been, because of some fancy new technology our staff has found. So I am pleased to support this motion. I think that's going to be a good project to do it now, and it will extend actually the life of our underground infrastructure.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Anything in closing? Yes, council, I also agree. It's one of our priorities, and is infrastructure, maintaining our infrastructure and renewing it. And this falls right into that priority. And I agree with Councillor Penner. Timing is of the essence here, and if we get this done this year, yes, it will cost millions less if we do it this year than if we would wait a few years to do it. So that is why this project is being brought up. And I will just call for the question. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Let's go directly into second reading. Looking for a motion for second reading. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments? Anything further? Any further of council? Nothing in closing? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, council, we have no delegations, so we'll move into number 8, reports and recommendations of city manager. We've got 8A, which is land purchase. This is referring to 88 Acres Drive. It's on page 24 of our package. Mr. Working, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is a vacant parcel of land currently located at 88 Acres Drive in Steinbach. Interestingly enough, this parcel of land has appeared before council a few times, both for selling it and for repurchasing. And this happens to be one of those times where it's appearing before council for a repurchase. The city sold this parcel of land in 2017, and the sales agreement at the time of sale provided the option for the city to repurchase the land from the buyer at 80% of the original sale price. The owner has confirmed its intention to sell the parcel back to the city and has requested the city's consideration. Recommendation from administration, council approve this purchase for the price of $62,400 with the possession of January 1st, 2021.
Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Siemens?
Motion approved.
Councillor Hebert, second. Go ahead, councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This, when the city sells industrial land, they ask the purchaser to sign an agreement that in a set amount of time that they will build on that property, or the city has an option to buy that piece of property back for 80% of original sale price. And that's the situation here, is that the city's buying it back for 80% of the original sale price. So by purchasing this property back, we can put it back into available industrial lots, which there's not very many of, back into our inventory.
Thank you. Anything further?
Nothing further.
Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Council, we'll move on to number 9, 9A, accounts payable in the back of the book. We've all had a chance to review. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments?
No comments.
Well, we'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Council, we got building permits. I'm starting on page 32, and there were so many we had to move over to page 33. It's been a great month. We had just under $12 million of permits issued. A couple of the highlights, we've got $2.5 million worth of the commercial, industrial, schools, churches, that kind of category, the commercial category. So our commercial is growing this month. In residential, we've got just under $9.5 million of residential. A couple highlights there, we've got on Maplewood Street, we've got two 12-unit multifamily dwellings totaling $3.4 million. Another highlight would be at Brighton Lane, we have an 18-unit multifamily totaling $2.5 million. We're adding total single and two-family units. We've added 10 and 42 family units in the multifamily units for a total of 52 family units, giving a year-to-date total of 257 units. Council, we've had a great month. This puts us at just a little over $58.5 million for total permits for the year. Given the fact we've been going through COVID and code red, code orange, lockdowns, I think we've done fabulous as a city, and we got to thank our developers for continuing, and our homeowners for continuing to build our city. This is really, really, really exceptional. But I'm just looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Penner. I know I said a lot of comments, but any comments?
Nothing further. Well said.
Thank you. Anything
You
further?
totally stole our thunder.
I think I'm going to support this.
I'll think about it. No, yeah, I'll support this. This is great. This is great news for our community.
Yeah. Okay, anything further of council? Yes.
I will make a further comment, Mr. Mayor, although I don't know how much I can add to yours. I think it is, I'm impressed with the amount of different developers that are choosing to build multifamily in Steinbach, that it's a huge investment for them, but it's a good investment for Steinbach as well. But there are a lot of out of towns. Some of these are from out of Steinbach, but it's not only in the residential side, but the warehousing that we see here, the commercial warehousing, that's also an integral part of our development in our industrial parks, which is needed as well. So I think overall it has been a very good year so far.
Thank you. Anything further? You know, yes, Councillor Siemens, you bring up a very good point. There's quite a variety of developers, and they're not all from our community, and some are the first time developing in a large scale like this. So this is very exciting, seeing so much new development blood coming in. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We'll go to 9C. This is bylaw 2167, Kroeker Avenue Debenture, on page 34. Mr. Workney, would you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, this bylaw 2167 represents a bylaw to authorize the actual borrowing of funds to pay for a local improvement, which was the reconstruction of Kroeker Avenue, which was a project completed this year. The total amount of the borrowing that has been arranged is $1.77 million. With the successful lowest quote being provided by Royal Bank of Canada for this project at a annual interest rate of 1.53% for the 5-year term of the debt. I believe that's the lowest rate of interest that I recall the city ever paying for a debenture issue. City administration recommends council give this bylaw first and second reading so it can be forwarded to the municipal board for approval.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Workteam. Do we have Councillor Penner?
Motion to approve.
Second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead, Councillor.
My only comment would, I guess, be what Mr. Workington already said, that an interest rate of 1.53% is unheard of, as far as I know. So that is really good. So essentially, just going to pay, for the most part, what it costs, and not a lot of interest.
Anything further?
I will add, I totally agree with that, and it's pretty amazing.
Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
Nothing in closing.
Okay. Yes, council, I agree with Councillor Penner. At 1.5%, let's borrow more money.
Okay, take it easy.
Okay, call for the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. And we will go right into second reading on that too. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Any comments?
Nothing further.
Any further of council? Nothing in closing. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, so we've got 9E. 9D. City of Steinbach Emergency Plan Amendments. That's on page 38. Mr. Workney, could you please introduce this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. This is an annual schedule that is provided as information and submitted to council for ratification. These are minor amendments that are made to the city's emergency plan. It is done every year to make sure that the documentation and information in it remains current. Recommendation that council approve these amendments.
Council, would you like to proceed? Councillor Zwaagstra?
I make the motion to approve.
Second by Councillor Siemens. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is, obviously this is routine. This just clarifies our emergency plan.
Anything further? Anything further of council? Closing?
Nope.
Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, now we're 9E, minor subdivisions and minor variances, page 39. Council, these are all the minor variances for, that have been totaled up now, minor subdivisions? Or, yeah, just looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert.
No comments.
Comments?
It's pretty clear, no comments.
Nothing further of council? Okay. Call for the question. All those in favor? That's carried. We have 9F, business tax cancellations and small balance write-offs. Mr. Workney, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there is a series of schedules. Each one, I believe they've been identified separately, although there could be one overall resolution that adopts both the schedule on page 41 and 42. Those represent small balance write-offs and additional assessment revisions to the city's realty tax roll for 2020. Recommendation is that council approve those adjustments on those 2 pages.
Okay, so you're looking for one motion for G and H?
Yeah,
Oh, no, for F.
yeah, pages 41 and 42 could be
41
one.
and 42, okay. Okay, council, we're looking for one motion for pages 41 and 42. Councillor Penner?
Could I ask a question through to administration first?
go ahead.
On page 41, in terms of the number of businesses that have closed, is that normal in a year, or do you think that is correlated to COVID?
It is fairly typical of what the city sees every year, especially with leased space. Even though the description is often written as business closed, it may in fact be that a business has just changed location.
Oh, okay, that's, yeah, got it. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Councillor Hebert, second. Any comments?
This is just housekeeping.
Nothing further.
Nothing further of council? Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we got 9G, 2020 supplemental tax adjustments. That's on page 40, okay, 42. We just took care of that, right? Okay, so it was F and G we took care of with one motion. Now we're going to 9H. Accounts receivable transferred to taxes, page 43. Mr. Workington, would you like to introduce this?
There is not much to add other than there is certain items for which the city has invoiced property owners during the year that relates to services rendered for particular properties for which the bill remains unpaid. The Municipal Act permits the city to transfer these unpaid amounts to taxes. Recommendation from administration is council approve these transfers.
Council, would you like to proceed? Councillor Siemens,
Motion approved?
second by Councillor Zwaagstra. Any comments?
No, just what administration said, that these will be added to taxes for unpaid bills.
Anything further?
You said it all.
Well, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, council? Pardon?
Question for clarification on page 39 and page 40. There's 2 motions on both pages. Did we cover those both in a?
It was both with one. That's the way I
They
understood
were
it.
covered under one.
Thank you. Okay, number 10, council question period. Are there any questions of council? Okay, seeing none, we will go on to number 11, correspondence and petitions. We've got number A, or letter A, Mennonite Heritage Village Canada, the grant request on page 43. Council, would you like to proceed? Take it as information?
Yes, please.
Yeah. I see no other business. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The next regular council meeting is January 5th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Thank you.